I worked with two founders. One had about 100,000 followers, while the other had about 17,000, a fraction of the size. And the smaller one had more paying subscribers than the bigger one, not by a hair, but meaningfully more. The same platform, same kind of business, and the audience that was 5 or 6 times smaller was the one actually making good money. I've watched some version of that play out for nearly a decade and more than 1,000 coaching calls. And it taught me something that it took way too long to accept, which is that the size of your audience is almost never the thing standing between you and a real business. So that's what I want to do in the next few minutes or so, is tell you what the actual difference is. And it's one thing, not 7, one. Quick on who I am, just so you know why I get to say what I'm about to say. I am Daniel. I'm the head of coaching and customer growth at Uscreen. Over the last 7 years, I've personally sat in more than 1,000 one-on-one coaching calls with video founders in the fitness, education, faith, filmmaking spaces, and so much more. And on top of that, my team and I have studied the patterns across those calls. And I'm not telling you that to flex. I'm telling you because this isn't just some theory that I've read in a book. It's a pattern I've watched repeat so many times that it stopped feeling like coincidence and started feeling more like a law of nature. And here's the law. The difference between the founder who builds a real business and the one who stays stuck, it's not audience size. You just heard me say that. It isn't about content quality. Honestly, the bigger accounts usually have better production, and it isn't hustle because everyone I talk to is working so damn hard. It's one thing, and before I tell you what it is, I need you to hear how I mean it. What I'm about to describe is not a character flaw. Nobody handed you a manual when you became a founder. The platforms trained you to do what's good for the platforms. So if you hear yourself in the next few minutes, and you will, that's not me calling you out. That's just a diagnosis, and a diagnosis is good news because you can't fix what you can't name. There are 3 things I see over and over, and they look like 3 separate problems, but they're not. They're 3 symptoms of the same one. Let me walk you through them, and then I'll name the root. Now, picture a founder you probably already know. Maybe it's you. 5 videos a week, every week, has done it for years. The audience climbs slowly, and the membership is flat, a year flat. And her fix for that flat membership is the only lever anybody ever handed her. Make more. More content. Of course, more content, because that's the only move she's ever been taught. I see this in roughly 2 out of every 3 calls that I take. Making more has quietly become the answer to so many problems in business, and it's the answer to almost none of them. So here's the line I want to leave you with, and I'm going to say it twice. Making content and growing a business are not the same activity. Making content and growing a business are not the same activity. They feel identical, same desk, same camera, same energy, same you, but one of them feeds an algorithm and one of them feeds your family. And the cruel part of this whole industry is that nobody ever tells you which is which. So you pour everything into the one that feels productive, and you wonder why the number that actually matters won't move. If you've ever finished a month completely wrecked from publishing, looked at your membership number and felt a little sick, that's the treadmill. And I need you to hear this. That doesn't mean you're lazy or behind or not cut out for this. It means you've been running hard on the wrong machine. And that's all. Now, let's go back to that bigger founder, the 100,000 followers, fewer paying members than someone a fraction of the size. Here's what was actually going on. And I see this in probably half the calls that I take. Years of genuinely great free content had trained the audience perfectly to expect everything for free. 100,000 people had a wonderful, fully functional, completely free relationship with this founder, and the founder was terrified to disturb it. Every single time the membership came up, the same fear was underneath it. If I start selling, my audience will turn on me. If that's living somewhere in your chest right now, you're in good company. Most of the people I talk to feel that. So here's the second line. Free content builds an audience. It does not build a business. Now, I'm not going to tell you to stop making free content. Please don't hear that, because free content is the front door. The smaller founder, the one with 17,000 followers who was out earning the bigger account, she makes free content too, and plenty of it. The difference is that she knows what it's for. Free content is the first date. It's not the marriage. And here's the thing that data shows that almost nobody believes until they watch it happen to them. Your audience does not hate being offered something. Your audience hates being confused about what you are. A founder who clearly sells something they believe in reads as a professional. A founder who awkwardly half drops a link once a month, almost apologizing for it, That reads as someone who isn't sure their own thing is even worth buying. And the audience feels that. Confidence sells, confusion doesn't. Let me give you a name on this one because she said it on camera. Liz Patient runs Pilates for Runners. She's a solo founder, not a celebrity, not millions of followers, somebody who looks a lot like you. She ran one structured email campaign to the audience she already had. One. She was hoping privately, quietly, for maybe 50 sales. And she sold over 100 bundles in 3 days. And then she wrote an unsolicited letter to our CEO because she could genuinely not believe that audience had been sitting there the whole time waiting to be asked properly. So let's sit with that for a second. They were waiting. The audience you already have is almost certainly further along than you think they are. You've just never asked them like you actually meant it. Third one, and honestly, this might be the cruelest because it punishes the people who are trying the hardest to get it right. I see it in a lot of calls. You've taken the courses, you follow the right people, and one guru says build a funnel. The next says funnels are dead, go all in on YouTube. One says email is finished. The next says email is the only thing that matters. Maybe you hired an agency, maybe you hired two, maybe you hired a freelancer. Quick true story, I worked with a founder paying an agency thousands of dollars a month. Over a few months, they took her email open rate from 40% down to 17%. Why? Because they ran an e-commerce playbook on a relationship business. Right tactics, wrong business. And it cost her so much money and so much of her list's trust. And the net result of all that learning, all those courses, all that money, you don't know which call to action goes where. So you put nothing anywhere. You know more than you've ever known in your life, and you are more stuck than you've ever been. Confusion doesn't come from too little information. It comes from too many systems. So if you feel paralyzed right now, frozen, can't decide, second guessing every move, I want to be really clear. You're not broken. You're over advised. That's a completely different problem. And it's much better news because the fix isn't learning more. It's the opposite. Okay. So here's the one thing, the promise I made at the very top. Those three, the treadmill, the free content fear, the overload, they're not three problems. They are three symptoms of one problem. And the one problem is an identity problem. You're operating like a content creator who happens to sell a membership. The founders who break through operate like business owners who happen to create content. And that's it. That's the entire difference between the 100,000 follower account that can't get paid and the 17,000 follower founder quietly out earning them. And I know those sentences sound very, very similar. Say them back to yourself slowly and you'll hear it. They're not similar, they're opposites. A content creator asks, what do I post this week? A business owner asks, what is this week's content for? A content creator asks, what should I post this week? A business owner asks, what is this week's content for? A content creator hopes the audience converts. A business owner builds the thing that converts them. A content creator posts and a business owner runs campaigns. Same desk, same camera, same person, completely different job. And here's the hard part that comes with the diagnosis. So I'm just going to say it straight. Until you make that shift, no tactic will move the needle. Not a better funnel, not a new platform, not another course. Not another course. I've watched founders with the wrong identity burn perfectly good tactics for 7 straight years and then conclude the tactic was broken when it wasn't. The identity was. The identity comes first. Everything else is downstream of it. Now, I don't want to leave you with a slogan. A slogan doesn't change anything. So let me make it concrete with one thing you can actually do this week. Finish this sentence about your own audience. They come to me as blank and I help them become blank. They come to me as someone who blank, and I help them become someone who blank. That A to B, where your people start and where you take them, that is the spine of every business decision you'll ever make. What to post, what to charge, when to ask, it all hangs off that one sentence. And here's the tell. If you can't say it cleanly right now off the top of your head, that's not a content problem. That's the identity not being real yet. And that is the actual work. And watch what happens to the free content fear once you have it. The moment you know your A to B, free content stops being the product and becomes the invitation. You stop being scared to make the offer because the offer is just you finishing the job that the free content started. You're not interrupting the relationship to sell. The sale is the relationship doing what it was always for. I'll be honest with you. I had the wrong identity for a long time too. I thought my job was to make good stuff and hope. The shift is learnable, and I know it's learnable because I had to go through it. So if you take one thing out of this whole episode, take the sentence, write it down somewhere you'll actually see it. I'm a business owner who happens to create content. Not as a nice affirmation, but as a working truth, because the day it becomes true is the day every other decision gets easier. The treadmill, the fear, the overwhelm, they don't survive the shift. They were never the disease. They were just the fever. So here's your actual homework. This week, don't make more, make the shift. Write your A to B, and then go look at the audience you already have, the one you've been quietly convinced is too small, and ask yourself the honest question. Have I ever actually asked them like I meant it? That's the whole game, and you can start it today. If you want the structured version of this, 5 days live, where we'll make that shift real and figure out which of those 3 is actually broken in your business, it's in the show notes. But the episode will stand on its own either way. That's the deal, and I'll see you in the next one.